The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
It's Monday at 11 a.m. It's time for Mick Shots. And Mickey finally has his headset on inside the SWBC podcast studio. He has some technical difficulties, but we didn't want to talk to Mickey anyway because it is the day after a Cowtown Marathon in which Everson Walls ran through the streets of Fort Worth and came away victorious.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just don't know how tough it was yesterday. It was like World War II out there, guys. You know, it's funny.
26.2 miles is a long way to run, Everson.
So it's 13.1, which is where I went, and it was brutal. I don't know. As much as you can train, it just never seems like it's enough training, because when you hit the pavement, it just wears you down. From step one, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. You know, you can just feel it in your bones.
So do you start going too fast?
Oh, no. No, you didn't have to worry about that. No, I started off slow, but I ended even slower. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But when you start running, you know, it's almost like you have this grudge against someone, because there's always that one person, you see them all the time. You know, you're like, oh, they got me, and how'd they get past me? Oh, I got to pass them. You know, so it kind of becomes this little thing, right? And so I had to file a complaint on this one dude, man.
File a complaint?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he had an unnecessary advantage. I mean, he had wheels. He was on a wheelchair. You can't, you know, when he goes down the hill, bro, I can't catch that guy. You know what I mean? But up the hill, you know, just as soon as somebody to catch him, then he goes down the hill, he is flying. I'm like, you know what? That's an unfair advantage.
It's not a flat course?
Oh, no, it seemed to do this the whole time. The whole time. And like I said, that guy in the wheelchair, he had an unfair advantage. That was not cool at all.
It was nice running weather, though, wasn't it?
It was good running weather, yeah.
Now, you had a toboggan on. you had at the end. I mean, you tweeted out a picture. Oh, you had some headwear on.
Yeah, no, okay. That was just a pullover. No, it was just a pull. Yeah, Duncanville. It was the Duncanville Panthers, the state champions. I had one of their hats on.
Because I didn't think, how long does it take for you? Because it wasn't that cold yesterday.
It was not, but it started off.
Yeah,
it was in the 40s once you started off. But
I just know back when I could jog, I mean, it would have to. I'm taking off the pullover, everything, unless it's 35 degrees.
Do. That's what you got people undressing as they run, and then there was one.
It doesn't take long at all. You start heating up,
and she's collecting those people that throw things, and then I guess she must have brought it back to the finish line or something for the guys.
They actually do that?
I saw one lady doing that. She was dressed as a dairy cow. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. But I mean, like I said,
Chick-fil-A.
You start doing. I got that. You really start competing against like certain individuals. You know, the wheelchair dude, he pissed me off. And then you had this lady ran by me. She was old, man. She had to be like 55, 56. And
that's young.
She looked it though. But a hunchback. You know, she had the curve in the back, and she's running. And I'm like, I can take this chick. You know what I'm saying? and she left me. Everybody's going uphill. She's the only one that didn't walk going up this particular hill. I mean, dude, I joke, but she had to be close to 70 years old. And she was killing me. So, you know, for a moment, she and I had that Chris Paul moment to where, you know, she looks like she's just fast walking, and I'm actually jogging, and she's still kicking my ass. So, no, jogging is very humbling, brothers. Very, very humbling. I don't know how many people pass me with baby carts. You know, twins even.
I hear you.
Like, okay, I never saw them again. They're gone. They kept going, and they kicked my ass.
Maybe they were only doing a half marathon. I mean,
I was too.
No,
a half of a half of like
no,
a 10K.
There were only
5K.
2 races at that time, full and half. And I'm like, damn, I never saw him again.
So was your time better than last year?
It was.
Okay.
But yet I walked more this year. You know, like when I did walk, it was like a really serious, power. I could walk about 15 a mile, you know, when I'm serious. And so that's kind of how I was doing. And sometimes my walking was faster than
your running.
So that's my story, man.
there you go.
I'm sticking to it.
Very
brother.
nice.
All right. All right. So, Mickey, did you have a nice off season?
I did.
Because the season is starting now.
Right now, right?
That's right.
Probably started on Friday, right? Was Friday when they finally announced the complete coaching staff?
Oh, the coaching
change?
staff, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They
They
waited
did?
till Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's Combine Week this week.
Yes.
And 2 weeks from today,
This
it
is like Bill's big week
that
and a
big
half.
green notebook is here. There's my big green notebook. 2023 Big Green NFL Draft Scouting.
Like you upgraded. Did you upgrade?
No,
It looks like there's a lot of empty pages in
there are. I mean, because it starts this week.
There we go.
I mean, all the other stuff until you get these combine times. I mean, you're just wasting time. You
Like
are
on
wasting time.
Thursday it starts. Is that right?
Okay, that's the beautiful thing about the combine. We now have, and everyone can access it on the internet. Okay, we got 20 years of comparisons that we can make and understand that. Okay, Michael Parsons is a top 10 pick because he just ran a 4.38, and so anyway, this is it. And 2 weeks from today, free agency starts. The
Which, by the
negotiations
way,
between the players, and a week from tomorrow, the Cowboys have to, and all the other teams have to make their decisions on who gets franchise tagged. So we got another a little over a week left on that decision, and here it is. The business season is starting now.
Speaking of Micah Parsons, Thursday night, Jason Garrett had his annual Collegiate Man of the Year award.
Jason Witten did.
Yes.
Did I say Garrett?
Yes, you did.
He was there, by the way. Jason Witten, award banquet. And one of the guys that was the finalist, Sean Clifford, the Penn State quarterback. And so when he got done doing his little interview, I went up to him and I said, "So help me with the timing here. Was Micah Parsons there when you were there?" "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Why do you say it that way?" He goes, that guy, he goes, all he wanted to do was be a running back, right? And he would come in and always talk to me, like come into the huddle and say, "Hey," not during games, but practice. He goes, "Hey, go tell coach that I need some carries," right? And he goes, "I told him, you go tell coach that. And don't come and tell me. He's the big guy," right? But he said, yeah, he was an amazing athlete. And he goes, and he always wanted to play every position. So I told him the story about calling himself Mr. Football. He goes, "Oh, yeah, that's him. That's him."
That's it.
So that was a nice ceremony Thursday night. They do it here at the Star and the things in the Ford Center. The guy that won, by the way, was Deslin Alexandria, Pittsburgh, born in Haiti. And parents moved him to here and got a scholarship to play at Pitt and turned into a pretty good football player. And the one guy that I didn't know much about, Alex Forsythe, he was an offensive lineman from Oregon. His dad was one of the people that got shot and killed in Clackamas Town Center just outside Portland when they had a shooting.
Jeez,
And,
there's so many now. You can't
Right?
even put them all
and
together.
it was just like listening to, they do a profile of all the guys ahead of time, and that was part of his profile, having to deal with that. And I was like, oh, my Lord. Think about that. You're 13, 14 years old. But anyway, nice ceremony. Jason Witten, I think what he's trying to do is take this thing nationally, like make it a national award and just sort of, maybe ESPN actually broadcast it. They're getting closer.
They actually did? You said?
No, they don't.
Get it to that point.
Get it to that point. But yeah,
When you hold stuff here, I mean, that's a good stepping stone to credibility.
Right.
Holding it here at the Star. Remember they had the Landry Awards. That was on the NFL Network. It was delayed, tape delayed or whatever on NFL Network. So that's, once you have it here at the Star, that's always a good platform.
Yeah, he
to
goes
I
start.
think NFL Network would pick this thing
yeah,
up.
really.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because they need
Yeah.
content, right? they go to they contact 98 schools, the sports information director, and have all the schools submit a guy's name, and then he's got a committee, and they go through all this stuff and come down with the final 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty neat, pretty nice award.
Kind of a tearjerker too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, all great stories. And in fact, last year's winner, Josh Paschal, I didn't know anything about him before he won, and then started doing research on him after he was here for this award, and then really good player too. And he's going to have a good career in the NFL.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of neat because it's not just what you do on the field, what you do off the field.
No doubt.
Sort of like the NFL Man of the Year award.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it was good.
And Witten pontificated about the Cowboys too.
He did.
He was asked about the current situation. I thought it was interesting. He was talking about the change on the coaching staff, and when you think about it, with Kellen Moore no longer the offensive coordinator, and of course it was Jason Garrett's offense going back to 2007. This is, as Witten said, this is the first time in 16 years they haven't been running this same offense.
Yeah, and Dak mentioned, it's probably going to change 20 to 30% difference from what they've been doing, but it's still not what they've been doing since 2007 because it's been handed down from Garrett to Linehan. Garrett even when he was head coach, then Linehan, and then Kellen Moore. So yeah, they've been in the same offense. I wonder if that makes a difference when teams prepare for you, although other teams' coaching staffs change so much.
Right.
It's not like, oh, yeah, I remember in 2008 they were those coaches aren't the same.
And it's not as if McCarthy didn't have any input the last 3 years,
That's
too.
what I think people miss, right? Like I keep saying, there was a reason he had a headset on and a play sheet in his hand during the games, right?
I still hope that there are some visible changes in regards to our play calling habits. There are times when things are pretty obvious. You don't want your quarterback sitting back in the pocket today. Your offensive line they're having some issues. Blocking the run. In this particular game, we're not getting any movement up front on the line. I wonder if those decision makings, the decision making plays that he calls, are going to have a different pattern to it. In other words, the offense coordinator we had, he may have a certain tell. Every time he gets in this situation, I'm going to continue to pass the ball now, or continue to run the ball. The happenstance just might be a little bit different this time, and hopefully instead of kowtowing, I would say, and going for the meager yards, sometimes you might want to go for it. You understand?
Well, everyone has their own DNA.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
That's what I mean.
And I think that Kellen's DNA was more throwing the football. So that when it comes down to, all right, a crunch time of a game, or you get in the heat of battle, you're going to go back to your DNA.
I can throw for 4 easier than I can run for 4.
Yeah.
And that he did hang his hat on that. That's part of his DNA. I don't know if Schottenheimer, whatever he does when he comes in, or if McCarthy might be a little bit have a little bit more different pattern.
Well, Witten finished that with saying, so if those changes, or he said if that changes, meaning the system, or doesn't change, or what it feels like, there's been a lot of top offenses in that system through these different coordinators. So he did point out that offenses have been pretty good over the years with this Cowboys team over those 16 seasons.
All right, so did you catch any XFL this weekend? Last night we had a matchup of Wade Phillips against Bob Stoops, the Houston Renegades, or the Houston Roughnecks winning over the Arlington Renegades. And Mickey has a
Uncle Wade, 2-0.
He's 2-0 as an
2-0.
XFL head coach. First wins as a head coach since his days with the Cowboys.
He was acting like, this is no big deal. This is what I do.
It's not a big deal.
I'm
Come on,
2-0,
you know what he's
and I'm going to
thinking.
put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks.
But they shut him out
I tried
like the second
watching.
half, right?
Yeah, I tried watching it. I went back and forth.
To what?
American Idol was much more entertaining.
Wow. I just knew you were going to say something like, Indy 500 or something. No,
American Idol was more competitive. The offensive lines and the quarterbacks just spraying the balls all over the place. It was hard to watch. About as hard to watch as the second half of the Mavericks game.
Yeah, that was tough.
So I want somebody to point out this stat for me. Just like everybody's pointing out, when you have a 27-point lead, there were 180-something and 0. I want to know how quickly a team in the NBA had established a 27-point lead. Because that 27-point lead was in a quarter and a half.
Yes, it was.
Right?
Yes.
That's a long time to hold a lead in the NBA,
right.
By the way. That's the stat.
Because they got it down to 14 by halftime.
By halftime, yeah, absolutely.
So. Yeah, but I know you're not giving them a pass, are you?
No, but I'm saying not everybody has a 27-point lead in, 12 or however many minutes.
Well, you
20 minutes.
The mentality is you don't want to maintain the 27.
Yeah, you want to build
on
the
game.
But chances are a professional basketball team's not going to continue to shoot 20%.
By 20. Exactly. That's
right?
my point.
That's why they were down. They couldn't hit. They were 0 for 15.
The defense came through.
Yeah, they did.
That's how it happened. The defense made them shoot shots they don't want to shoot. They made the threes more difficult, and all of a sudden, you got to make the adjustment.
And they decided maybe we should just go inside.
And big man was working.
Yeah.
Big man was
Both
working.
of them.
Yes, they were.
Anyway.
I know. How did we get on?
It was me. I consumed part of my
Good
Sunday
game, though. Great
afternoon
game. Great
watching
game.
it. Yeah, I didn't know about that Vanderbilt guy. He was the difference in the game.
Mm-hmm. My son knew about it.
Nothing about
He's a Lakers fan, and when they signed him, yes, they did. He said, "This guy's a Swiss Army knife." That's what he called him, and he did it yesterday.
I'm looking back at when you're talking about how quickly did a team establish a 27-point lead in the NBA, and I immediately thought of Game 7 between the Mavericks and the Suns in May. And no, it was I think it was a 30-point lead at halftime. But last night or yesterday afternoon, it was they got to 27 quicker than
14-point lead in NBA is nothing, right?
Yeah.
When you got a half to play.
It was 57-27 at halftime of that Game 7, and they held on to that late. Yeah. So anyway, Kyrie and Luka are now 1-3 when they are playing together.
But boy, they are exciting as hell. Mm-hmm. That I can tell you. Mm-hmm. I like watching them more. The losing, that's a whole other thing.
There were some faces in the crowd yesterday afternoon too.
I
saw that.
That picks up now.
Yeah,
that picks up.
Afternoon game.
There was a two-time Super Bowl MVP in the crowd, getting it back to football.
I saw that.
Patrick Mahomes
was in the crowd. All right, so here he is. Mickey has filled up 2 legal pads. He's got the marker out on a bunch of notes, and so we're going to hit all of that when we come back here in just a moment here on Mick Shots.
Fuchsia colored.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
We paid how much for those lessons?
Shh, she's doing great.
Oh yeah, totally. Can you pass me a Pepsi Zero Sugar? Great job, honey! Oh, look at that. That's not the end.
No way. Now it's time for the encore.
You know what? You're right. 5 times? Not enough times.
For everyone who traded in rock concerts for their kids' recitals, you've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar. That's what I like.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. You hear that? I'm a torrential downpour. Torrential? What's that even mean? It means you can't see out of your windshield. And if you have the wrong car insurance, you might have to make it rain to fix your bumper. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, from corporate homes to your home. Have your roof checked by choice, not by chance. Call now, 214-225-4860, kpostcompany.com. And if you needed a free check on your roof, it started raining awfully hard last night around midnight, maybe.
Yeah, it did.
I can tell you exactly when. I was driving home from work at 11:30.
Really? Holy
it hit
cow.
through 114 through Grapevine about 11:30 last night. I about got blown off the road.
I would imagine.
And I came out of nowhere. I left a TV station where the weatherman said it's fine.
Well, nobody trusts them anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I was like, out of nowhere, all of a sudden it got windy and rainy, and it was, but it didn't last long.
No, about 15 minutes maybe.
My truck shows it today, though. It is rather dirty. It was a dirty wind and
That
rain.
it sure was. My daughter's car is filthy right now. Yeah.
That's right.
It came from Amarillo. They showed the
There it is, West Texas.
They picked up some of Amarillo and just dropped it all over.
Right.
It was almost
rest
they
of the
couldn't
place,
they couldn't see. It was there was so much dust in the air.
And bad tornadoes up in Oklahoma
Yeah.
last night. In fact, at the OU campus, there was a bunch of damage around Norman. All right, what is on your legal pad? Well, you've got a coaching staff over there that's all marked up. It seems like there have been some changes here in the last month on this coaching staff we need to talk about.
I've got 10 changes, either newcomers or repositioned guys, like Jeff Blasco, who was the assistant offensive line coach. He is now the running back / run game coordinator. So he moved from the offensive line to the running backs coach, takes Skip Pete's place. Also, Chase Haslett, who was, I think he was one of the quality control coaches. He is now an assistant tight ends coach. We've talked about Brian Schottenheimer moving from analyst to offensive coordinator. Mike Solari, who was coaching when Everson was playing for the Cowboys, is now the offensive line coach, takes over for Joe Philbin. And Scott Tolzien, who was just kind of an offensive assistant, is now the quarterback's coach, taking over for Doug Nussmeier. So those are the main changes on the offensive side of the ball. Any of that catch your eye?
Well, I know it's kind of old news, but when you have a running back that makes the Pro Bowl and has a great year, you still get rid of the coach?
I think here's my notion of what took place. So Skip Pete, been in the league 24 years.
Also a factor.
I believe.
Also a factor.
And I think a couple things stood out to me, and we go through the rest of it. Number one, new voice. Number 2, getting younger. And maybe number 3, getting less expensive. Because you got to figure if you've been in the league 24 years, your salary is probably pretty high, right? So other than Schottenheimer being 49 and Solari 68, the staff got younger. Blasco, I didn't look up but he's like in his upper 30s, something like that. Haslett's young. Scott Tolzien is young. So they got a little bit younger. But, yeah, you're right. But, again, this staff was pretty heavy, too, with a lot of assistants to the assistant. And so some of that changed.
So what's the final cut down number? How many positions did we save? Did we get rid of?
Yeah, I don't know if because they've got so many quality control guys, analytics guys that kind of boost it. I'll give you because the special teams stayed the same, the strength and conditioning staff stayed the same. On defense, they didn't re-sign Leon Lett, who'd been here quite a few years, but they brought in Sharif Floyd, who coached with him during training camp, I believe. He was like a part-time assistant for training camp, the guy that everybody wanted the Cowboys to draft, if you remember, and then they didn't do it and caused an uproar. Also...
So basically, he takes Leon's place?
Yes. He's quality control assistant defensive line.
And Leon turns 55 in October.
Okay.
So they get 25 years younger there?
Probably.
Something like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Skip Pete turned 60 January 30th. And Blasco turns 40 on July 6th. They got 20 years younger there.
Close. I said 39.
20 years younger there.
Right.
Tolzien is 35, and Nussmeier is 52. So you're 17 years younger there.
They got younger, and then they also brought in as a quality control assistant linebacker coach Darian Thompson, who had played here.
Was here. Just last year, basically.
Yeah, he didn't,
wow.
I mean, he didn't play. 2021 was his last year to end up playing. So, yeah, they did get younger. Also, linebackers. So, George Edwards, I bet he's in his 60s.
He's 56 now. Yeah.
But he'd been in the league 25 years, I believe. And so they turned that back over to Scott McCurley,
who's 42.
And he had the job in 2020. And then when they got George Edwards, who had been a linebackers coach, defensive coordinator, they called him a senior defensive assistant. They basically gave him the linebacker. So now it goes back to Scott
Just for
McCurley.
1 year? Just for 1 year?
Just 1 year, yeah. Actually, that year, I still think Sean Lee was coaching the linebackers. Just watching practices and see who was doing all the talking, it was Sean Lee. So anyway, 10 changes.
I wonder if they talked to Sean Lee about if he would be interested in coaching.
I haven't heard much from him.
It's because he's got a mansion in Santa Barbara, Frisco. Working 12 hours a day or taking a walk on the beach, right?
Him, it wouldn't be 12 hours a day.
Yeah, right.
You talk about someone's DNA.
Probably 16.
Yeah,
right?
He's probably going crazy out there in Santa Barbara
yeah,
right now.
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll just see how
Keep
much
an eye
longer.
on that. Yeah. Right. Same thing with Witten. They asked Witten about it. And his response was basically, I'm making a difference here in high school, and my kids got a couple more years
that was the key
to go.
Yeah, I think his oldest is a sophomore, maybe going to be a junior.
Right.
And then the other boy, I think, is a couple of years younger. Probably going into his freshman year, maybe.
Yeah. So he pointed that out.
Mm-hmm.
But he
so
didn't totally dismiss it.
I think 6 years from 6 years from now, either a college job or once Tennessee goes bad again.
Yeah, right. Because I bet he could put staff together. Right?
I mean, Doug
Peterson
did that. I mean, Doug Peterson, after his playing career, he coached at a small private school in Louisiana, and probably I don't know his family situation. I assume maybe he had kid playing, and then he got on the Eagles staff, and within 5 years, he's coaching in the Super Bowl, and now he's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You gotta love that guy. I like Doug Peterson. I always did. I always did.
Maybe we get Everson a coaching job.
Oh, no. Hell no. Nope. I'm good right over here where I can complain without having to deal with others.
That's a good point. So anyway, that's the changes they made. And, we'll see, how it turns out because, you don't make all these changes without the thought of, okay, now we've been good. Now can we get better? And there's no regression time here, right? There's no honeymoon time for a bunch of new coaches. They got to get better.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
I was going to say the only thing that concerns me, and we've all seen a lot, been through a lot. I remember in the '80s, we lost 3 championship games in a row, and Tom decided to start. Okay, we got to do something different, But what he did differently didn't help. It hurt. So the moves that he made after that, they were the wrong moves. Versus personnel, versus the patterns that you use, and like you said, the DNA that you have as a coach. I'm hoping that these moves that we made weren't the wrong moves. That's the only concern about it. Just making moves for the sake of making moves. That's not the whole point. But if what you're doing, makes sense all the way up into better victories in certain moments. Changing the way we react in certain big moments of a game. Changing our habits. Once we get into a certain situation. Will this make us better or will it make us worse?
See, I think the key thing will be the changes on offense because defensively, with Dan Quinn coming back, Aiden Dirty is still the defensive line coach. Al Harris is still the defensive backs coach, and Joe Witt still secondary pass game coordinator on defense. So those main spots have stayed the same. And remember, Dan Quinn, he's the defensive coordinator, but he can help out on the defensive line or I think at linebacker too.
A question: do you guys think the defense got better after we had that middle of season slump? As we got towards the end of the season, do you think our defense got better?
I think I would have to look at the scores. They still led the league in takeaways, not as many as last year. But I think that in a couple games that they lost, that kind of goes on Dak's ledger.
That's right.
He put up 28 points in the overtime loss to Green Bay and 34 in the overtime loss to Jacksonville. Now, I understand it was the pick six that ended the game, but he still put up 34, and that wasn't enough to win the game. So there were times where the defense struggled.
I think I think things got better actually after the Jacksonville game. And I wasn't necessarily worried about points as much as you could see that the defense was really starting to take control of games, and our offense built off of them. Even if you look at the Washington game, you look at even the Titans game, those two games, the defense was really playing with one hand tied behind the backs because we weren't using our entire playbook in a couple of those games. We were coming towards the end of the season.
Tennessee was playing with two hands behind their back.
That's you mean the QB position?
The QB,
right? And
even the Washington game, they were playing the rookie Sam Howell was playing quarterback.
And I think it let us. It gave us a better look at ourselves at the end of the season.
But one of the things it did, I think, the injuries to the cornerback position kind of exposed a lack of depth there that they didn't have. Bland stepped up, played well, but they were still a guy short.
And with that, having said that, I thought they salvaged good performances through all of that.
Right.
And I'm talking about maybe, including the San Francisco game, I'm talking about maybe the last 5 games of the season, including up to the San Francisco game. I think they regardless of who they were going up against, they made all their goals, to keep the game in hand for the offense. The offense just wasn't doing much in a couple of those games.
Right.
But it's a key thing for any NFL team to do is take an honest look at what you did during that season. And let's look at the last half of the season. And so this is something that goes on behind the scenes. It went on a month ago, as soon as the season ended back. Second half of the season, after that Minnesota win, 40-3, okay? Win over the Giants, 28-20. Giants, solid team, okay? So that's a good win, okay? Indianapolis, okay, turned out to be a 54-19 win. It was 22-19 going into the fourth quarter, basically, okay, or whatever it was. Indianapolis is not a good team. Houston, not a good team. 27-23 win.
Thank God.
Lost to Jacksonville, which was turning into a decent team and made the playoffs. Okay, 40-34. That's a loss. Philadelphia, 40-34 win, backup quarterback. Tennessee, 27-13 win, backup quarterback. Washington lost 26-6 in the last game of the season, backup quarterback. And then you're facing Brady and the Bucs in the postseason, and then the Niners. So, I mean, you just have to take when you ask a question, honest look. Okay, second half of the year. And then what's the other thing? The production of Parsons and pressure in the quarterback down the stretch of the season.
Right, and using him almost exclusively at defensive end. I still like him better at linebacker. Just, if you want to spot him as a defensive end, but I just don't know that first and second down he needs to be playing defensive end. I think he's more valuable at linebacker.
You've got to find someone that can hold it down as he's in the back, playing against the run.
Right.
And until you find that person, then Mickey Spagnola will not be satisfied.
Well, you might be right, because Dorrance Armstrong started the season off like he was shot out of a cannon, and then all of a sudden it leveled off.
It's a long season.
Sam Williams, all right, and spots, but he wasn't like a full-time defensive end, right? He was a rookie, and I think it showed, especially against the run. And I just think it's hard for Parsons, the way he's built, to play defensive end against the run, taking on guys that are 80 to 100 pounds.
There's a reason that most teams rotate guys up front.
Right.
It takes a lot out of you.
So
play after play.
Interesting to see what they do, especially at defensive tackle. Now, they had young guys that I thought played decently, but, they did have some struggles stopping the run.
When you look at Parsons and you see him at the end of a game, he's spent. I mean, I'm sure all of them are spent, of course, but just to what you said, he seems to be just, have nothing left down the stretch and when you really need him. Someone approached me about, should he change his workouts? Should he change the way he prepares for a season? Should he maybe become heavier and play defensive end if you're going to be playing that a lot more?
Right.
Because he's getting caught in space a lot, when you show his weaknesses on the edge.
I just like him blitzing as a linebacker because now they don't know where he's lining up. I thought early in the season when they were lining him up, they had a 4-man line, and he was the 5th outside of DeMarcus Lawrence. I thought that was awfully effective. Now, maybe they're looking at matchups to see, he can take advantage of this or that. But it's when he's got his hand underground as one of, or not hand on the ground, but standing in one of 4 on their front of the defense, the running backs over there, the tight ends over there, and it makes it difficult.
It does.
I mean, even, Someone said when they interviewed him at Ticket Stock, they said something about, defensive ends getting their hands on me or on you. And he goes, no, they don't get their hands on me because I'm around them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes getting around is further, right? Mm-hmm. And there ain't nobody rolling out to his side either, by the way. It's always a ways, so now he's chasing backside. Mm-hmm. But he still had 13.5 sacks.
All right, when we come back here on Mixed Shots, how about we take a look at what truly are this team's needs as we go into the new season of building a team with the Combine this
big
week.
Green
and
notebook.
Then free agency coming up right after that when Mixed Shots continues in a moment.
We paid how much for those lessons?
Shh, she's doing great.
Oh, yeah, totally. Can you pass me a Pepsi Zero Sugar? Great job, honey! Oh, look at that. That's not the end.
No way. Now it's time for the encore.
You know what? You're right. 5 times?
Not enough times.
For everyone who traded in rock concerts for their kids' recitals, you've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar. That's what I like.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. You hear that? I'm a torrential downpour. Torrential? What's that even mean? It means you can't see out of your windshield. And if you have the wrong car insurance, you might have to make it rain to fix your bumper. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere Zero Turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Back to Mixed Shots.
Get ready for 2023 DCRB auditions with Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue prep classes every Monday night at Next Step Dance at the Star in Frisco from 8 to 9 p.m. Learn proper stretching technique, choreography, drills, and tips from the DCRB director and dancers. Learn more on Instagram at DC Rhythm and Blue or DallasCowboys.com/DCRB.
Rhythm and Blue?
Rhythm and Blue.
No S?
No, it's not a song.
Oh, let me see.
Bill doesn't trust me.
It's not Rhythm and Blues. It's Rhythm and Blue. Because blue is
Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue prep classes every Monday night. Next Step Dance at the Star in Frisco, 8 to 9 p.m.
They could have gone either way.
No, it's not blues.
I mean, it could still be blues.
No, it's blue because they're
the cowboy blue.
They're cowboy blue.
You can go plural on
you
color
say
of
blues, it sounds like it's a song.
It's a plural of blue. That's all it is. It's a plural of the color.
The dance team has rhythm, and the color is blue. Is what you're saying.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a play on words, is what that is.
Yeah, thank you.
Rhythm and blues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not blue.
And then blues can also be sad, and so you don't want that.
And that's what he's saying. But I'm saying it could be plural of the color. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Let's make things happy with this roster.
All right.
Biggest needs going into this offseason as the Combine starts. As you're watching players work out, and the workouts actually, the on-field TV presentation will be starting on Thursday. As you watch the position groups work out, get your first taste of what's available in the draft. And then you got free agency starting 2 weeks from today. What is it? What positions of need are Cowboys looking at that they really need to fill?
You want me to give you right off the top of my head?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cornerback, wide receiver, tight end, linebacker.
Quarterback?
Cornerback.
Don't choke.
They do need a quarterback.
They do need a quarterback.
So can you find one better than Will Greer in the 6th or 7th round?
You always got to be looking.
Okay.
I'm not saying right now he's better than Will Greer, but
I mean, that's what you're looking at if you can re-sign Cooper.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
If Patrick Mahomes is in this draft, if Patrick Mahomes is in this draft, you're Mike McCarthy, Scott Tolzien, the scouting brain trust,
Aaron Rodgers,
they
maybe?
love this player. This player has a potential to be a Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Would you?
Well, are you more brilliant than the other 25 teams?
Andy Reid apparently was. Because they traded up. They traded up and they gave up draft picks.
Okay.
To move up to number 11 or whatever it was to take Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Alex Smith was their quarterback.
Okay. And they weren't happy with him.
But, I mean, he was at wherever he was in his – I mean, let me look back up Kansas City, what they were doing then, how Alex Smith was doing. But keep going.
I think they had problems in playoff games, maybe.
All right, or take it back to Green Bay. You had Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm. And he was.
And you had Aaron Rodgers, the 25th pick.
But he was getting close, right?
Yeah. Well, here it's more, and I'm not proposing this. I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying.
Can they? It's a contract deal with Dak, where he's got 2 years left on this deal, and the amount of money that you're paying for the quarterback. It has nothing to do with his age.
Right.
You know.
So basically, if you're not trading up,
and I'm not saying that this player would supplant Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott may play great the next 2 years, but then you have this player either as a backup or a guy that you can trade.
So how's that working out in Green Bay right now?
Yeah.
Guy hadn't got on the field, basically.
Yeah. And are you in?
But he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Are you in a win now?
They keep talking about him. That's the way they talk about him. They're putting all their eggs in this basket.
So are you in a win now situation?
You're winning now with Dak, right?
But if you give up a first round,
was Kansas City?
What's that?
What's Kansas City?
But they were going to move on from Alex Smith.
Okay.
Are you moving on from Dak? That's what I'm asking.
Hold on.
Because you're giving up a first round pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next year. So 2 firsts.
I'm looking up Alex Smith right now.
So yeah, you give him up. Then
so
you don't have money for anything else. You don't have any money for another wide receiver, right?
I don't get a first round wide receiver or a cornerback or a tight end.
Mm-mm.
All right. Okay. Mahomes is 2017. Is that the year he came in?
You think people around here will stand for, well, we're looking at the future. The future in Dallas is the
why
next
I'm bringing
day.
it up.
And then you bring in these players that,
future.
they look okay, and just okay until the moment comes, and then they look horrible.
And then what if you miss?
And that happens with quarterbacks a lot.
Right? Because
Wilson.
How many good quarterbacks do you think are in this draft? Like first round guys? 4?
All right, here's what was happening in Kansas City at the time that they made the decision to draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round and gave up picks to do it. They were coming off in 2016. They were 11-4, and Alex Smith made the Pro Bowl.
11-4. What did they forfeit 2 games?
No, I'm sorry. Alex Smith, as I'm looking at Alex Smith's
that was
stats. His
okay.
record was
Sorry.
11-4. Good point. All right, so Alex Smith, as the starting quarterback, was 11-4, and he made the Pro Bowl. All right, they draft Mahomes, and he was 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They draft Mahomes, and in 2017, Alex Smith, as the starting quarterback, went 9-6, and he made the Pro Bowl. Passed for 4,000 yards. He had 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
Wow.
All right. Then Mahomes became Alex Smith. Bye. And so when they drafted Mahomes, Smith had one more year in Kansas City.
Okay.
And then he went to Washington the next year. So Mahomes did not play his rookie year, sat, and then started the following year. So actually, Kansas City at that point was a year. We'd be looking at the 2024 draft, like going into next year with Dak's situation. Difference is Dak's got 2 years left on his deal here, and the age and so forth.
The age is different. Yeah.
But the money is the issue, because the $40 million a year is what straps you from which gives a team more incentive now to go looking for that quarterback. Because if you can get a quarterback who can come in, even a second rounder like Jalen Hurts, you can look at the team that you can put around a guy who can
and that's where
start
I'm headed, Bill.
on a Super Bowl team.
So you bring in Mahomes. Does the wide receiver position change? Do you did someone else come in along with him, who could make a difference for Patrick Mahomes that maybe Alex Smith didn't have? I don't know if their running game was different. Did they bring in better linemen? Things of that nature. Because, if it's just Patrick Mahomes, based on what I've seen, I can get that. But everyone's not going to come in like a Patrick Mahomes and make a difference.
Right.
You got to bring in somebody else with him if your receiving core or your offensive game plan isn't up to par.
Bottom line is, if you do something like that, you better be right on that quarterback.
Well, yeah.
But then you look at San Francisco. And they traded so much to go up and get Trey Lance. And Trey Lance hadn't contributed yet. And yet the 49ers are in the NFC Championship game.
And what if you're the Chicago Bears? Because you got the first pick in the draft, but you already got Fields, right? What do? Are you sure he's your guy? And,
that's what makes it so fascinating.
And like I said, who do you think are the top 4 quarterbacks in the draft? Because I saw a list, and C.J. Stroud was not on it.
Really?
And I was like, well,
really?
I was thinking, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's got another year.
No,
right?
You're not wrong.
He's got to be on that list, right?
That must be an interesting
Maybe
list.
I misread the list. Maybe he was first, and then they listed everybody
That's what
else.
it was.
Yeah.
Because it's no way you can say. I mean, he's, to me.
He and Bryce Young, right?
Yes. That's the top 2. That's what I thought the way it goes.
And
supposedly.
I'll go back to Bryce Young, how he handled his interview, the Davey O'Brien Award, when he had to fly from Tuscaloosa to here. And he flew right back, and they interviewed him the next day on the ticket. And I think it was Corby said, well, I mean, did you have to go to class or that workout the next morning after you were here? I'm sure Coach Saban would let you pass on that. And he goes, you obviously don't know Coach Saban.
I was going to say, you don't assume anything with Coach Saban.
Yeah.
And in that 2017 draft, there was one quarterback taken before Patrick Mahomes, and that was your Chicago Bears. Mitchell Trubisky went number 2 overall.
That's crazy.
And Mahomes went number 10 overall.
I mean, for just a second, Trubisky was heralded.
So the teams that passed, Cleveland had the first pick, took Myles Garrett. Chicago took Trubisky, number 2. San Francisco took Solomon Thomas, number 3. Jacksonville, Leonard Fournette. Tennessee took wide receiver Corey Davis. The Jets took Jamal Adams, a safety out of Hebron High School. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams. Carolina running back Christian McCaffrey. Cincinnati wide receiver John Ross. And then the Chiefs, Mahomes.
And they gave up what? Does it say?
Yeah, I've got to look it up.
I really would like to see what kind of changes they made
along with it. Like, was Tyreek Hill there yet,
That's
or
right.
not
That's
there?
right. Or a Tyreek Hill-like person, someone close. I don't know.
Buffalo
I can't
traded number 10 overall to Kansas City in exchange for Kansas City's first and third round selections. Kansas City had the 27th and the 91st pick, as well as a first round selection in 2018.
I dare ask, do you know what those?
2 firsts was Josh Allen.
Okay, okay, so what did I say? 27. Let's see, Buffalo, and that took Tre'Davious White, cornerback from LSU, in the first round, and then the third round pick was where did I say 90 something? Where'd it go? Don't tell me they traded it. Oh, yeah, they did. It gets too convoluted.
So what about the next year's first? Since you got it, it's really easy to get there.
No, not from where I am.
Oh,
but
okay. Well,
if you'll just talk for 2 seconds, I'll get there.
When did Tyreek Hill get there?
Oh, brother.
You should have done this research ahead of time.
Well, I didn't know I was going to ask the question ahead of time. All right, and then the next year, Buffalo took They took Josh Allen in that draft the next year, the 7th pick, but that was from Tampa Bay.
Well, maybe
where was the Kansas City pick? And they took Tremaine Edwards, linebacker. That was from Baltimore. How many picks they have in this draft?
I don't know, but they did pretty well.
Yeah.
So he was in the 2016 draft.
There were too many trades.
Tyreek Hill was
16.
The 2016.
So he was
draft.
there already. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there you go.
All right.
Any more needs? You said cornerback.
Cornerback.
And?
Wide receiver.
Yep.
Tight end. And it may be running back, depending on where they go and what they do.
That's the most confusing to me. I mean,
right?
Yeah, that's the one that's most up in the air. But I think we do know that wide receivers got to be one of our top 2 needs.
But you had just said in an earlier segment that you needed somebody so that you could play Parsons more at linebacker.
Well, I can't get all these guys in the first
round.
round.
Do we need another
right?
offensive lineman? Do we need a right guard, a left guard? Do we need a left guard?
Mm-hmm.
You see?
I don't know if I need it in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Now, there you go. See, there you
did
go.
last year, though.
See?
You needed that guard in the first round.
It was
we can't bring up last year. You see, we can't bring up last year.
It was a tackle that played guard. He's not playing guard. He's playing tackle. So, you can't have a first-round pick at every position on the offensive line. Goodness
Why not?
gracious!
What did we do with the last decade? Come on, we concentrated on offensive linemen. I mean, what? How we get Zach?
Sometimes you got to.
No, I mean, with Zach.
Can you develop a guy?
With Zach and.
But it didn't work. You didn't win a Super Bowl.
Oh,
right.
But you established a culture around here. You had some running backs with some good numbers behind that offensive line.
Yeah. The running numbers weren't as great last year.
That's true. But the offensive line I'm talking about that Romo had in front of him, that, what was that, Murray had in front of him. I mean, come on.
Well, what are you doing there, though? Are you keeping Tyron Smith? You giving him another shot?
We'll see.
Or is he
that's
deciding himself?
And
whether he's going to do it.
Is Terrence Steele ready to start the season?
I think if Tyron Smith is gonna quit, I think he would have done it already. Don't you think? You think he would be that person that would drag something like this out, and then all of a sudden I'm out? I mean, you got to have some communication in that regard.
Well,
let me.
The other thing on that is you don't know what's been told behind the scenes,
right?
Whether they publicly say it or not. Travis Frederick retired in March.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it this way: if he stays, his base salary, $13.6 million. I don't know that I'm walking out the door on that.
And so, I would say he'd be here. I don't think he's that person that would drag something like this out. I think we would have known by now what he was going to do, and the fact that he hadn't done anything, that means he's going to be here. That's just my opinion.
And if they can somehow convince him to reduce a little bit of that and give him because he's out of guaranteed money, by the way. That's one of the things that they're going to have to look at. It's the same thing with Zeke. He's out of guaranteed money. So
it could be a situation where there's negotiating going on, and then the player has to make a decision. Is it worth it?
During those negotiations,
yeah.
you've got the management playing psychological games like, hey, man, how you feel? Are you okay? You look like you're limping a little bit.
You've got to know what your market value is.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm a free agent, they cut me, is somebody going to pick me up, and how much will they pay me? And I think that's where the agent has to earn his money.
I was going to say, that's not as hard as it used to be back in the day.
Right.
That's something he can find out very quickly.
Right.
Yeah. As an agent.
Because someone said, someone pointed out that market value for Tony Pollard's $11.9 million a year. And it's like, okay, are you sure about that?
What would his franchise be?
10-1. And is somebody going to pay him that coming off his injury? Sight unseen. You got to factor that in, too. The other fallacy I see in some of this stuff where they say, okay, here are the top people that need to either be reconstructed contracts or cut. They point out what the cap number is. I don't care about the cap number. I care about the base salary because the cap number is going to be some of it's going to be dead money if you let him go. So it's not like, his cap number is 16, and if you cut him, you're going to save. No, you're going to save the base salary. You're still going to have probably $8 million in dead money.
Interesting.
And there's only so much dead money you can account for that you got to account for.
We need to have a class, a SPAGS class on dead money and how all of this works. You need to come in with a
capologist,
or maybe we need to. We need to get Todd Williams in here.
Capologist, that's a good one.
We'll recruit Todd Williams, right? The guys that have to keep track of that money, and come in and just explain it, not to say, okay, this is what we can do or can't do. Just okay, here's how it's going to work. Yeah. Because
and that's what they have to do. That's what
that's what they're doing right now, right? Getting ready for not only the franchise tag, but then free agency. March 15th? What are we? 20?
Well, it's free agency's the negotiating period's March 13th.
13th, so but you can't do anything officially until. I mean, you don't become a free agent until the 15th. You can negotiate.
But the signings are going to be – that's Adam Schefter's big day is March 13th.
Right. And then 12
which is 2 weeks from today.
12:01 a.m. on the 15th, right?
Is when it all becomes official.
Yeah, because they'll have these. But you got to know. You got to know what market value is before you make some of these decisions. And the player needs to know that too. Because you don't, oh, no, I'm not taking that. And you go out and somebody signs you to less. Unless you have two teams bidding on you.
All right, we're 2 minutes past time.
Past time.
No.
Yes.
Okay, Mickey is going to continue talking. And
Bryce Young will not throw at the Combine.
Oh, my. There's breaking news from the Combine. Bryce Young will not throw. And I'm going to be filling up my big green notebook this coming week, and I'll have some of those reports for you next Monday.
And I want to know who's throwing and who's not.
There you go. All right, next Monday, 11 a.m. here on Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!